Name is Vanessa, and I am going to be talking today about a very important topic that has to do with basically, it can be a lot of different things, but kind of generally speaking, drinking the Kool-Aid, culty vibes, gaslighting, and different people having different life experiences. That's kind of the general overview I'm going to cover. So, no matter what organization it is, it could be a corporate organization, a governmental organization, but I definitely have a lot of direct experience within the military and Department of Defense organization. There are people out there that if they have not had the exact same life experience that another person has had, they will just basically try to deny that that experience ever happened or is even possible on the planet of the earth or universe. And so, for example, there are many people that were in the military before I was ever born. There are people that served in the Vietnam War before I was ever even thought of. And like I would never be like, "Oh, well, I didn't experience that, so that couldn't have happened." Like obviously I'm a rational person and I know that the Vietnam War did happen. There are people that were there that had very harrowing life experiences. Some survived, some did not. And so that's an experience that while I did not have, cannot directly relate to, certainly can try to empathize and imagine what it might be like to live through something like that. And I can have an idea. But this evening, it just really occurred to me. I really got to thinking about how many people are out there, especially within the military community, that will just gaslight the heck out of a person if they did not have the exact same life experience. And there is a specific person I'm thinking of right now. I'm not going to name names or anything, but they have some opinions about the Department of Defense I don't share, and that's fine. We can all have different opinions, and they also have had some extremely like harrowing life experiences within the military and the Department of Defense that I definitely never had. Thank God. And I'm not going to ever be like, well, that didn't happen because I didn't have that experience. It's like, no, I'm sure it did. I didn't have the same experience, just like other people have the same experience I had because there are different locations. They had different commanders. They had different military leadership. And they're different people working with different people. And so the experiences will absolutely vary. But, there is a word out there, corrosive, and it's actually been used even by the military itself, one of the branches, in describing issues that have been recent and that have been historical and are ongoing and that they're trying to address. And I've got to say, I really admire, even though I criticize a lot of things, anyone within the military leadership that can acknowledge that there's a problem with something, because this first step in fixing a problem is acknowledging that you have a freaking problem. But what blows my mind and drives me wild are people within really any community, but let's just say the military community, that want to pretend like problems don't exist within the Department of Defense. Problems don't exist within the military. That if someone is, and this is something historically that I've got a lot of direct experience with, that like if and this is something that's been brought up repeatedly, even with other federal agencies, that if a person brings up a problem, a situation, a cultural issue within the organization, then they are now the problem. There is no problem. The problem is the person that's bringing it up. And that's an example of incredible corrosive culture right there. That is just going to be rotten from the inside out. Is that the person that brings up, oh, there's an issue, is now the person who's getting attacked. And it seems like this is really pronounced within certain organizations. I mean, certainly I see this in the federal government, other government entities as well. It kind of varies because at this point I spend a lot of time paying attention to the government, probably more than I should, how it functions, because the culture, it's of interest to me, how the cultures within the government vary. And also some of this can show up in corporations as well. But honestly, if corporations were as mismanaged as like our federal agencies, the corporations would have been bankrupt. They just can't function at that rate and speed. It wouldn't work. So anyways, my point is though that it just amazes me how there's such a profound denial within some people that even though we have the access to the internet with all this information proving that there are all these issues within, certain areas of government, specifically like i.e. the military, whatever the case may be, that you're still going to have people that are like, oh no, there's no problems. I'm drinking the Kool-Aid. Everything's great. Everything's perfect. Oh, somebody's bringing that up. Well, then they're making excuses. They're the problem. I don't know of anything like that. I've never heard of anything like that. And this just like culty vibe situation going on. I mean, it just really blows my mind, how the groupthink mentality really can prevail and how some people are just so psychologically conditioned that it's just like mind-blowing and disruptive to their reality to even hear someone say that they had a different experience than what they have had, or that other people are experiencing a different reality than what they're experiencing. And honestly, how closed-minded really is that? That you can't even like acknowledge that other people have had a different experience in the same organization. The Department of Defense is a massive organization. Absolutely massive. I mean, it is entirely possible, and it happens all the time, that you could have service members and their families that have wildly different experiences. There's a thing called classism, which is absolutely pronounced in the Department of Defense and the military. And people of different ranks, like if you're an officer, it's going to be a wildly different experience than if you're enlisted. If you're a junior enlisted, it's going to be a wildly different experience than if you're not. And then depending upon where you're located, it depends on how you're treated. I've talked about this before about how I was really lucky that my military leadership gave us our food money back and our paychecks right after we arrived to our units as junior enlisted. Most other junior enlisted don't have that experience. The junior enlisted service members at Fort Hood, Texas certainly haven't. They can barely get food last I heard in news articles. That wasn't the experience that I had, but I did experience poverty as a junior enlisted service member when I first joined. So yeah, there is a lot to talk about on this, but like the military, there's a lot of people, and it's a Google search away, that are struggling, that are service members, that are military wives, that are family members that are struggling with just trying to survive the military lifestyle because of the problems that do exist, because of how destabilizing the lifestyle is and disruptive of them moving all the time, of them having issues with employment, childcare, marriage stuff, just general well-being issues, having health crises because of the stress of the lifestyle. And then to think that there's just people out there that are also in the same community that just want to pretend like that's not real, and that Department of Defense doesn't somehow have a role to play in that. It's mind-boggling to me.